Welcome to the Confidence Through Health podcast. My name is Jerry Snyder. As a health, wellness, and sports performance coach, my goal each week is to bring you experts to help you take control of your health and build your self-confidence. Thanks for including me today on your journey to better health. I'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, All In Health and Wellness. If you're looking for a health coach, you're looking for a sports performance coach, you're looking for nutrition guidance, like for instance, a meal-by-meal plan that will help you understand how to eat. It will teach you how to eat, and it will give your body, your cells, the proper nutrition to feel great and be able to perform at your best, not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally. If you're looking for those things, you're looking for the key to improve your sports performance, both from a nutrition standpoint and an exercise physical standpoint and a mental standpoint as you approach your athletic event. All In Health and Wellness is able to help in these areas. Go to allinhealthandwellness.com and you'll find the contact information for how to get in touch with them and get started on the plan that will improve your life. So thank you, Dr. Alessi, for being a guest on the Confidence Through Health podcast.
Jerry, thanks for having me on. I'm excited about getting started and I can't wait for our conversation.
So one of the things that in researching about you and learning about like what your passion is, what you're involved in, and what you're trying to help people with, you've got 30 years or more in the fitness and health world, right? In that arena of trying to help people with their fitness, with their health. So sort of the overarching, which I'm sure is a question you've gotten before from people. It's like, is there a most important piece to focus on when it comes to somebody's health?
And I would say the answer is yes. And it starts with something that may surprise you. Some people would say that I would talk about diet and food, very important. Some people think I would talk about fitness and keeping your muscle tissue and your energy level, very important. But I'm not going to talk about either of those.
Right.
I'm going to talk about mindset.
Nice.
See, your mindset is the mothership. It directs what direction you're going to take. And so often, Jerry, so often, I meet people that tell me that they're too old, they're too injured, they're too broken, they're too this, they're too that. And you're not going to get the benefits and you're going to be hurting yourself if you think like that. So of course, there's different limitations when it comes to fitness and nutrition, but we don't want limitations when it comes to the mind. We want you to decide what you're going to do. So make a decision of how you can improve. Secondly, you got to really take ownership of it. And now that's a scary word for a lot of people, but I could promise you this. It's the best thing ever because you don't need anything else. You don't need another gadget. You don't need another medication. You don't need another device. You don't need another Fitbit. You don't need anything. You just need yourself. And lastly, and of course, this is the big one, and I'm going to sound like your first grade teacher by saying this, but you do have to believe in yourself that you could improve. Because so often I'll meet somebody and they might be 45, 55, 65 or older, and they don't believe in themselves anymore. And I don't know what happened throughout their life or what happened in their schooling or upbringing, but it's going to make it difficult, if not impossible, to ever achieve results if you don't believe in yourself. So you do have to put those three things together, and that's where it starts. Then we could get into the strategy of fitness and nutrition.
Right. And I love that. And I didn't know that was what you're going to say, but I was hoping that it was going to be in that direction because I totally agree with you that it's like it's the first piece of the foundation that if you don't believe that you can get to wherever you're going to get, like whatever you try is going to crumble eventually. Whether it's, the friends idea of like, hey, I tried this diet, I tried this supplement, I tried this exercise plan or this new gym fad, whatever it is, and they're having success. And so you jump on board, but if you don't have the same belief system up front in yourself that they did, you may see an initial change just because you're changing behavior, but you're not going to have that long-term success that they did.
Yeah, agreed 100%. I mean, so many people are sitting back right now saying, I can't wait until they invent something, right? So it's a tragic mindset. You don't need anything new to be invented. Anything that you need, you're probably better off in before it was invented anyway.
Yeah.
You have to believe in yourself, not the next drug, not the next gadget, not the next Fitbit, not the next butt buster, not the next fad. You need to believe in yourself. So all of that being said, you decide what you're going to do. You take ownership of it, and then you, of course, believe in yourself. Now, once you have that, are there different ways to go about it efficiently? You bet there are, and I'm sure we could delve into a lot of questions regarding that.
Well, and that's sort of the next thing is that once you understand and like have that level of belief in yourself that like, yes, I can, whether it's, from an exercise standpoint, you have a goal, you want to complete something or, lose 20 pounds or whatever that is. It's like once you believe that, yes, I can actually do this and sustain it, there is then like there isn't one necessarily one perfect next step, right? It's just do something. Am I right in that?
Yeah, totally. In fact, I'm going to give you a different analogy. So I'm a big fan of following the educational model of
Mhm.
school. So let's say that I'm a poor student. But at times, grades are important to me. So I'm a poor student, but I cram before a midterm, before a
Mhm.
final, before a big test. Maybe I stay up 2 nights in a row, don't go to sleep, try to get all the information in at one time, and then we see how I do on the exam. Maybe I do well, maybe I do poorly, and so on and so forth. But as the years go by, I'm going to be less able to pull that off because the information, of course, becomes more difficult. It's more
Right.
challenging. So instead of doing that approach, I go to the teacher and I say to my teacher, hey, listen, my grades are not good, but I want to become a better student. What should I do to improve my grades? And they say, well, let's change your behaviors. Let's first make sure that you're going to class, all your classes, and you're taking notes and you're sitting in the front and you're participating and you're paying attention. And then you study, you do your homework, you read your notes, you do your additional reading, you complete your projects. If you do that, when evaluations come around, you're going to notice that your grades keep improving, improving, and your grade point average improves more and more and more. So it's the same type of thing when it comes to fitness and nutrition and everything else. We have to do the classwork, which is, of course, is the fitness. We have to do the homework with our diet or our food. And then with evaluations, which is body composition, your grades will keep improving. Your strength will improve. Your body fat will drop. You'll become stronger. You'll become more vibrant. All of these awesome things that you want, you'll become a good student. But once again, we've been chasing the whole no, I'm going to be a bad student and cram. I'm going to wait for the next GLP-1 Ozempic drug. I'm going to wait until the beginning of the year and then have New Year's resolutions. I'm going to wait for 11 days and then do pure keto and crash like that. Not a good strategy. It doesn't work for school. It doesn't work for fitness. So I recommend that you stop doing that, stop cramming, and start becoming a better student.
Well, and one of the things that you mentioned there too is body composition. And I think that when people truly understand that that's what we should be chasing and not the actual number on the scale, and that if our body composition is correct, and everybody's just going to be a little different based on their body frame and their size and right. But there's a pretty good range that we're shooting for. We know that if our body fat percentage is way too high, that obviously we're going to develop different chronic diseases over time just because we're carrying too much body fat and our body doesn't know how to handle that and it causes all these different stresses on different systems. And so the body composition piece is much more important than the number on the scale, right?
Well, totally. In fact, a lot of people don't even realize where the numbers came from on the scale because a lot of people will ask, well, what should be my ideal body weight?
Mhm.
We'll hear that question a lot. And the answer was given to us in 1959 by the New York Metropolitan Life Insurance Company. And this has nothing to do with health, by the way. It had
Yeah.
everything to do with actuary tables so they could
Mhm.
put out premiums of how much they're going to charge folks
Right.
for their life insurance. However, once we got into the 1990s, well, we didn't want to talk about weight so much, and a lot of people thought it was discriminatory. So we went to something called BMI, which is
Mhm.
body mass index. Now, BMI doesn't use scale weight. It uses your scale weight and your height, but it cubes and triples the number, then divides them between the two, which is a meaningless formula, but it's still just height and weight.
Hmm.
But
Yep.
the thing is, nobody knows what it means, so that they were confusing people because they said, no, we won't go by your weight. However, we're going to give something that's going by your weight.
Hmm.
Now, body composition or measuring your pounds of fat or body fat percent is not that at all. It doesn't matter if you're taller or shorter or younger or older. It's measuring what percent of your body is made up of fat and what percent is made up of everything else.
Right.
Now, everything else isn't just muscle,
Hmm.
it's what we call lean tissue.
Right.
And lean tissue is muscle, but it's also water, it's also bone, it's also blood, it's organs, it's connective tissue. It's all of that and more wrapped up into one. And that is the best indicator of your overall health.
Hmm.
Yes, some people are going to be a little bit thicker. They're going to have a different frame. Yes, some people are going to be thinner. Some people are going to have less muscle tissue and they're going to weigh less on the scale, but that does not mean they're healthier. In fact,
Right.
oftentimes they're not healthier. So all of that has to be evaluated if we're really looking at longevity, lack of disease, and physical fitness of how well you feel, look, and move.
Yeah. Well, and that the BMI and one of the things is as an athlete and being in the athletic world, people always ask me about, BMI and what should that be and all that kind of stuff. And one of the first things that always pops in my head is, if you just strictly went by BMI and didn't look at anything else and just had, like somebody's ID number and their BMI and just strictly off the numbers, are they overweight? Are they in bad shape? Are they, at health risk and all that kind of stuff? And like, what a third of the players in the NFL would be considered, morbidly obese, like all this, but they're high level athletes, but their BMI is way off the charts because they've got so much muscle, right? And so like the weight to their height ratio, it's not accounting for, oh, wait, but they may have very little body fat because they're so muscular, right? Like heavyweight boxers, those types of, people that are just like they're super fit, but they don't fit into that scale and that
Yeah.
system, right?
You're right. It penalizes you for having any muscle whatsoever.
Yeah.
I would think almost every athlete would be showing at least overweight, if not obese, which we clearly know that's not the case.
Mhm.
Also, think about it the other way. Every Alzheimer's patient would look
Mhm.
wonderful on paper.
Right.
Oh, if you had Alzheimer's, if you had Parkinson's, if you had Lou Gehrig's disease, any neurological problem, cancer, if you had any of those problems, BMI, you would look great. You would look
Yeah.
super healthy. You would click all the boxes. Now, I'm saying that is just the paradox of this
Mhm.
entire argument that we're talking about.
Yeah.
This conversation, yes, of course, the athletes are going to be much healthier. Of course, people that have neurological and debilitating disease is going to be a lot worse. BMI doesn't measure any of that. Scale
Yeah.
weight doesn't measure any of that. So I, of course, plead to people, look at your pounds of fat, look at your body fat percent. That's a much better
Yeah.
indicator of your overall health. In
Right.
fact, the number one indicator of how long you're going to live is your body fat percent in relationship to obesity.
Mhm.
So if you're obese as an adult, so over 35% body fat as an adult, you are going to die prematurely.
Mhm.
Now, the level that it is above 35 represents how much that's going to be, but we start developing this resistance above 35%, which brings into play the top five diseases: stroke, heart attack, diabetes, cancer, and Alzheimer's disease, all increase above 35%. Number one cause of disease and death, much more so than tobacco or anything
Mhm.
else.
Yeah. And what's neat is that, I remember doing this research several years ago, and if you can turn that around, if it's early on, which so many of our kids and teens nowadays are heading that direction quickly, and it's something that we've got to get fixed. But if you turn that around by the time you're 45, 50 and get things fixed, you can reverse some of that long term and gain some of those years back. And and what's nice is that that's when you want to have those years back, right? At least in our current society and system, because we're stuck in this, okay, we work until we're 65, 67, 70, and then we can enjoy all our free time. But if we're stuck in a bed or don't even make it that far because we die prematurely, then like what are you spending all your time working in a desk in a job, waiting for those years to come? And it's like we're missing the boat on our health during the time when it's most important.
Yeah, you work your whole life and then you can't enjoy it.
Yep.
Um, and I have a story for you, Jerry, and that's essentially my story. So when people ask me how I got involved in this field, most people thought I probably grew up a jock. I probably grew up as an athlete. I probably always wanted to get into exercise science and nutrition. And the answer is that's not the case at all. I started undergrad to go to dental school. I was going to become a
Okay.
dentist. And when people say, well, why did you want to become a dentist? And the answer was, well, I had two answers. Number one is I had an uncle that had a successful dentist practice, and I was
Mhm.
following his footsteps.
Yeah.
And number two is because in undergrad, I was 244 pounds,
Oh, wow.
right? And I didn't carry it well. So
Mhm.
just to back up a little bit more than that, both sides of my family, mother and father, are from Italy.
Mhm.
So I grew up with really what you would call delicious foods,
Mhm.
but we were peasants, so it was delicious carb-ridden foods. It was a lot of
Right.
breads, it was a lot of grains, it was a lot of pastas.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of weight early in my life. When I was in eighth grade, I wore my father's suit to my eighth grade dance. I had a size 38 waist in eighth grade.
Wow.
By the time I got into high school, I got up to a 44-inch waist
Mm.
pant size and even split my pants going to the prom. That's where I started from. I remember one time eating 11 pieces of pizza at once.
Wow.
So that was how I started. And this was before childhood obesity was as prevalent as
Yeah.
it is now. It was much less prevalent than it is now. So in undergrad, getting ready for dental school, luckily, I had to take some prerequisites in this brand new field, and it was called exercise science. Now, you might say, well, exercise science is not a brand new field. Yes, but in 1989 it was.
Yep.
And many schools didn't even offer it. So my undergrad school that I went to did offer it, Canisius College in Buffalo, New York. So I started taking some classes in it, and I fell in love with it for one reason, and it's because I needed it and it spoke to me.
Mhm.
So, yes, that is essentially how I got started. Now, some folks say, do you think that's why you're fit and you're in shape now? And the answer is no. Many kids, and this is to your point, many kids that do start with childhood obesity, it doesn't end well.
Yeah.
Obese children typically leads to obesity in adulthood, and it leads to a lot of complications, a lot of problems, a lot of medications, and a lot of loss of life.
Yeah.
No, I don't recommend being heavy younger. I
Yeah.
don't. It worked for me, but it's not a good plan.
Right.
But secondly, let's say that you were like me. Let's say that you were even later. Maybe you weren't heavy when you were real young, but you started gathering weight during your work years or family years in your 30s and 40s. Now you're sitting 50, 55, 60. Is it too late? No, it's not too late. And I think this is the basis of your question. So if that's the case, can I still improve? Can I still reduce my risk of all these diseases? Can I still lengthen my lifespan at this point? And the answer is, of course you can.
Mhm.
You bet you can if you start doing the right behaviors.
Right. And that's where the mindset to like, okay, I'm going to change what I've done, the habits and the behaviors and all of those things, um, becomes critical because if you can't tell yourself I can do this, then it becomes really hard to break 30 years worth of habit, 40 years worth of habit. It's not impossible. It can be done. And one of the things I tell the people that I coach is like, especially at a teen level or early 20s, is like, I'm not asking you to do anything that dozens, hundreds, thousands of people haven't already accomplished, right? So it's not something that's like, okay, nobody in the world has ever done this. We're trying to break ground on this new strategy. No, it's like it's proven there's all these other people that have done it. You just have to convince yourself you can be one of them.
And they can be one of them. And so often I'll meet with somebody, even successful people will tell me, I know I should be eating better, but you
Mhm.
have to realize it's hard. How can I be social when everybody around me is eating the wrong things, drinking the wrong things?
Mhm.
It's hard when you're tempted by all of these holidays and all of these
Right.
foods and so on and so forth. Well, it's interesting because once again, as a successful person, you've had to do hard things before. You've had
Mhm.
to challenge yourself in school and your career hundreds of times. I'm sure they wouldn't have gotten to that level if they
Right.
didn't. Secondly, I can't help but use this oftentimes. as a parent, and I have three children, as a parent, we are so worried about peer pressure amongst our kids. Hey, just because everybody's skipping class doesn't mean to skip class. Just because
Right.
people are using tobacco doesn't mean you use tobacco. Just because people are drinking doesn't mean you drink. If everybody wants to jump off a bridge, doesn't mean you jump off a bridge. But then as a parent, I could say that doesn't apply to me. I'm a parent. And if people are around me are eating poorly, if people are around me drinking poorly, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
How can it be both where we're scared
Mhm.
of our kids to do something, but it's okay if we do?
Yeah.
You can't be influenced by anybody other than you. You, it stops with you. You need no
Yeah.
one else. You don't need anybody's permission to eat or drink something, but you choose what you're going to do. You make the decision. It starts and stops with you. And go towards your goals. Go to
Mhm.
what's going to serve you best in your best interest.
Right.
And once you decide to do those things and you rely upon yourself to do it, yes, that is the recipe.
Yeah. And I fully agree with that 100% that it's everybody is capable of doing it. Everybody's capable of doing whatever really basically they set their mind to. And that's not just in the health world, but you see entrepreneurs that grow businesses out of nothing. And it's like you look at it and you go like, oh my gosh, how did they do that? I could never have done that. Well, okay. They had the mindset that it's make or break. I'm going to do this. And it's the same thing with our health. And unfortunately, we all know those people that we all know somebody that has died in their 40s or 50s from a chronic disease. And we sit there and we say, oh my gosh, it's so bad. It's like it's so sad that they had this, da da da. But what it boils down to is that it's the choices that were made and not believing in themselves to change those choices. And it is sad that people are dying earlier than they should, but it all comes down to, okay, there's so much information out there. It it's almost an overload, and it's easy to get stuck in this paralysis of analysis of like, okay, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do whatever? But the easy thing is to come back and go like, okay, well, I'm not going to let this happen to me, and I'm going to move forward doing something. Um, and and the body listens to that, right? Like the cells listen to what you tell yourself. So if you tell yourself, I'm never going to be able to lose this weight, or I'm never going to be able to live past 55 because no other male in my family's lived past 55. Well, chances are your body's gonna say, okay, well, we're 54, it's time to go, you know?
Yeah, you could talk yourself into major diseases. There's no doubt about it. You see
Mhm.
people do it all the time. I'm going to go back to a school analogy again. So if I'm just starting off, let's say that I'm 50, 55, 60 to give somebody practical information here. And let's say that I'm out of shape and I've never really done anything.
Mhm.
Nothing organized. So where do you start? Same as school. I want to start in first, second, third grade, something
Right.
like that. So maybe I don't know everything about exercise. I don't know how to break my sets up and circuit train and resistance training and Olympic training and lifting and workout variation. Maybe I don't know any of that stuff. But maybe I can just start doing some lightweight circuit training calisthenics. Maybe I don't know anything about nutrition. I'm not measuring my blood glucose levels. I'm not measuring my insulin. I'm not looking at my macronutrients. Okay, what if you just don't eat junk food?
Right.
Just keep it really simple. If it comes in a wrapper or in a box, you just don't eat it. And you go with more of a whole food type of approach.
Yep.
Just those two things will start improving your grades. So now my grades are improving. And the longer you're doing it, the longer you stay with it, you'll start ascending grades. You'll start doing
Mhm.
some more complicated things. You'll start looking into it because you're interested in it. So then you start looking into workouts and you start working with trainers and you start talking to nutritionists and you start doing some research and you're starting to improve and go along the path,
Mhm.
right? So being a clinician like I am, like you are, when people come to us, we're trying to jump them through levels quicker than they ever would on their own.
Right.
But if somebody said, I just don't have the means to reach out to a personal trainer, nutritionist, clinician, anybody like that, I'm going to do it completely on my own, you can still accomplish it. It will
Mhm.
take longer, so we're speeding up the time, but you could still improve your grades, which will improve your life. And next thing you know, you're getting better grades, your body fat's lower, you're moving better, less medication, you're able to feel better and move better, and you're living better.
Right. Well, and I think the big piece that for people to know, like, what's the like you said, it takes longer if you're going to do it on your own typically. And I think the big piece that we bring is, yeah, we've got the expertise and you know, to dial in your nutrition a little bit closer, to dial in your exercise a little bit closer. But one of the things that I find myself more often talking to people about is what's the obstacle that got in the way of you being able to do this? Right? Because I gave you this plan and we had something come up. Like you said earlier, you go out to a party with the holidays or whatever, and everybody's drinking or everybody's eating, the junk food, the desserts, everybody's piling in the cookies, and you're sitting there and it's the peer pressure piece. And it's like, okay, well, how do you that's that's the obstacle of I want to be this person, but all this stuff's right there. It's so easy and it's the old habit. Um, and so it's like, how do I, that's what I find myself more, right? Is how do I help these people get over that hump? But also realize that, okay, well, if you had a setback, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's like, right, you have a pop quiz and you flunk it because you went out and partied the night before, or you had an athletic event or a band concert or whatever it was, and you got home late and you didn't, you weren't prepared, you flunked the quiz. It's not the end of the world.
No, it resets. You don't
Yeah,
have to be perfect unless you're telling me you want to be the next great Olympian, which most people don't tell me that. So
right.
there's always a way that you could build it in there. In fact, many people, self-included, for our clients, we build in a cheat day.
Hmm.
So there is one day that's a free day, off day, however you want to use it. However, I have one rule, and the rule is you must pick the day in advance.
Hmm.
You can't just say, well, today I wasn't prepared and I ate this and I drank that and I got out of hand.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. You have to pick it on purpose. So if you said, hey, you know what, this Sunday is going to be Easter, or, next Saturday is a special event, a birthday dinner or something like that, pick the event. Don't let it pick you.
Hmm.
You're in control. You pick it. And also, too, to get a lot of people over the hump, I don't like using the term willpower.
Yeah.
I never thought myself as being somebody that had high willpower, but I want you to identify with a good student. I want you to be a poor student that's identifying as being a good student because then you'll be a good student. I want you to identify as being a person that's fit and healthy and in
Hmm.
shape. But Dr. Derek, I'm not fit, healthy, and in shape. I know not right now, but I want you to identify because you'll start doing the habits that a
Right.
fit, healthy person would do. A fit, healthy person won't miss their workouts. A fit, healthy
Hmm.
person isn't going to make up excuses constantly. They're going to get the job done. Now, it doesn't mean they're perfect. They're
Right.
going to pick and choose when they're not going to be perfect. But if you identify as being that person, all of a sudden you never have to use willpower again, and you're going to start improving.
Yeah.
So pick the day ahead of time. Forget about willpower. Identify that you are that person, and you will move towards being that person.
Well, and I totally agree, and I love that pick it and like identify what day it's going to be because when you look at athletes, that's what they do. They pick. Sometimes it's picked for them, right? That's where their competition is. It's that date, and they have to be ready for it. And they build everything around it. They build their hard workouts. They build their easy workouts. They build their recovery days. They build when they're getting massages, when they're getting, everything is built around this is the day I'm competing. And but it doesn't have to be. It can, everything can be built around. Okay, this is the day I'm going to have my freedom to do whatever I want. And it's better to do it that way because from what I found is if you don't, like you said, it's like you can't wake up that morning and just go like, okay, well, I slept in and I think this is just going to be the day because I'm going to have to drive by somewhere and just grab some fast food breakfast that I know is probably going to be way off the charts as far as nutrition and as far as poor nutrition. And so this is just going to be because that can easily become the habit,
Yeah, in
right?
fact, it is for people. They're just not trying at that point. You do have to put some effort into it. We
Yeah,
never tell people it's going to be effortless. The
right.
goal is to be easier each and every day that you do it.
Yeah.
So, you've heard the whole thing. It takes 18 days to build a good habit.
Hmm.
Honestly, I think it takes probably a lifetime to build the good habits.
Yeah,
I don't know where 18 days ever came from. I have no idea.
right.
But the goal is if I do the work today, the work will be easier tomorrow. Right. We know that from fitness.
Yep.
If I haven't worked out and if I work out today, it's a very hard thing. Oh my goodness, my muscles were twitching. I couldn't do
Mhm.
it. I was out of breath. Yes, but the next workout becomes somewhat easier. And
Right.
then somewhat easier and somewhat easier. And then you have to start increasing the intensity of it. Well, same thing with nutrition. I've been eating poorly. I've been making bad decisions. I've been having a lot of fast foods. I've been having way too many carbs. I've been having omega-6 bad fats. I've been doing all of these terrible things. I got to change it. I've been given a blueprint to change, and today was really hard.
Yeah.
Correct. And tomorrow will be somewhat easier,
Right.
both psychologically and also physiologically, too. It becomes easier for both. Physiologically, as you have less circulating sugar inside your liver,
Mhm.
your body will switch over to ketones and you'll start burning fat, which is what you want to do. Psychologically, you'll have the response that you've already made the good decisions the day before, so you have evidence that
Right.
the next day will be somewhat easier because you've done it before.
Right.
Once I tie my shoes, I can't tell you, Jerry, I don't know how to tie my shoes.
Yeah.
I've already done it.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with making these nutritional choices. I've tied my shoes, I've done it before. So all of these things start snowballing and they start working in your favor
Mhm.
so you could repeat it longer and longer and longer.
Yeah.
Now, what you don't want to do is get completely run over by a rogue wave.
Mhm.
So if you're a captain of your own ship, the waves never stop, but you don't want to be surprised if a stronger wave hits you. You don't want to crash upon the rocks. So
Right.
you do have to be prepared. Oh, a holiday is coming up. Oh, a trip is coming up. Oh, a big anniversary is coming up. So I'm preparing for it. I know where it
Mhm.
is. I know when it is, and I'm able to handle it, manage it much better.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that people ask me, what do I do when I go out to eat if it's a business meeting or, somebody else picks the restaurant or, you know, family outings where it's like I don't have any control over it. And it's like, okay, well, this is a restaurant that doesn't have as many healthy options as something else would. Um, and so they're like, how do you avoid like just digging into the appetizers that get put on the table that you know are not healthy and not something that you would want to go after? And a lot of times I thought, well, I'll eat before I go. Doesn't mean I won't eat there necessarily, because if I eat before I go, well, now I'm not as hungry. So a little side salad or whatever, like something small, fills me up a lot more. And so I'm not as tempted to go into those other things. So again, it's that preparation and being prepared of like, okay, I don't know what's going to come at this place or at this family outing or, Thanksgiving dinner when, and I've got a sweet tooth, but there's, a table full of desserts. And it's like, how do you avoid that? Well, it's like, okay, in my past, before I truly got into being a healthy person and because I had years where I was heading up the scale and just not caring what I ate and thinking that I was invincible still. Um, and yeah, I would eat half a cherry pie at Thanksgiving dinner. And now it's like, no, I can go by and not have any of that stuff because the discipline has been created and the habit's been created to focus on the healthy stuff, get all that, and then when I look at it, I'm like, well, I'm too full to have that anyway.
Yeah, totally. And I agree. In fact, one of the big things that we try to teach at Strength Genesis, though, is to pick that day in advance. So
Mhm.
many people will ask me and say, hey, Dr. Derek, what should I eat for Thanksgiving? To your point, what should I have for Christmas? Here's my answer. Anything you want.
Right.
Anything you want. You already know the day's coming. Have anything you want. I
Mhm.
am so not concerned with what you eat on Thanksgiving. I am so not concerned with what you have on Christmas. What I am concerned with is what are you going to eat the day after?
Right.
What are you going to eat on any given Tuesday? What are you going to eat today, and why is your after dinner snacks causing such problems? I'm
Mhm.
not worried about the major days. I'm not
Right.
looking to redo your traditions of Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Right.
Whatever you there are better ways to do things, but that might be an advanced lesson. So if
Sure.
this was school, that might be college or grad school. But right here and now is let's forget about Thanksgiving. Let's talk about the day after and the day after that and the day after
Right.
that because you're going to continue Thanksgiving from Thanksgiving all the way until
Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day. And when
Right.
that happens, when you go through 3 months of Thanksgiving, you're going to look up at the scale, you're going to be 15 to 20 pounds heavier, and then you're not going to be able to stop that momentum.
Right.
That is the problem, not Thanksgiving.
Right. Right. And one of the things I tell people all the time is that like one meal is not going to kill you unless you choke on it and nobody's there to do the Heimlich maneuver, right? But
Yeah.
otherwise, like no one single meal is going to be like you're going to drop dead from it in 15 minutes. Or I guess if you're highly allergic to something and nobody's there to take care of that too. Uh, but have what you want. But like you said, it's exactly it's like don't let that start the habit of now I'm just eating the dessert at every meal, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or my post, dinner snacks. There's always a dessert. There's always, somebody bringing donuts to the office. There's always something that's going to be there to tempt you. It's what are you doing ahead of time? And exercise is the same way, right? There's always the opportunity that, oh, I slept in, I wasn't able to get up and do my exercise. Or there's too many meetings and kids things in the afternoons and evenings, and oh my gosh, now it's 10 o'clock at night and I didn't exercise today, right? Like those things are always going to happen. And how you plan around that to be able to get something in. And your exercise may not be ideal, just like nutrition. Some days it may be all I could get in was a 20-minute walk, right? And you had goals for this hour-long workout and all of these strength exercises and all this stuff, but being okay with sometimes it's not there, but anything is better than nothing, right? Like anything is better than nothing because it keeps your momentum going in that direction.
Yeah, completely. Once again, going back to your list of excuses, we don't accept them for our kids. So, a battle that I might have with my son right now is, and he's 14, is how come you didn't get your homework done? Because, Dad, I was, late at practice last night because we had, he's in the band, because I had a
Mhm.
band cut. Once again, we wouldn't accept it from our kids,
Yeah,
but clearly we want to try to use the same excuses on ourselves.
yeah.
Look at the irony of the whole thing. If we
Hmm.
actually started working with ourselves as if we were a good student, once again, I'm going to go back to that over and over
Yeah.
again. If we go back to the good student philosophy, you're going to keep yourself on track. Now, a good student may not study 2 hours every night, to your point. Maybe I did have a band concert. Maybe I did have 2 hours of practice. Maybe I got in 10, 15 minutes.
Hmm.
Okay, that's the same as doing your 10, 15-minute workout.
Right.
Fine. You got some in then, you're going to do more tomorrow. Understood, because schedules can change.
Hmm.
Some people will say, well, no, if I can't do it all 100% all the time, I might as well do nothing. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. If I can't study for 2 hours every single night, I'm not going to study at all. No, of course not. You wouldn't do
Right.
that. You could shift the times around a little bit.
Right.
Are there anything easier that I could do to help break some of these carb cravings? I'm craving sugar. I'm craving carbs. You mentioned after dinner. Big problem with a lot of people's nutrition.
Hmm.
Yes, there are things you can do. Taking essential fats, fatty acids, omega
Hmm.
3s and 9s help a lot because a lot of people will ask me, does fish oil help reduce cravings, especially after
Hmm.
dinner? Yes. Does any type of MCT oil help decrease cravings? Yes, it can tremendously, but you still have to have the right philosophy of what you're trying to do to accomplish to be a good student.
Right. And then again, like you said at the beginning, it all comes back to mindset, right? Like the mindset of I'm going to become this new person. I'm going to become this good student of myself. Like, and a lot of times that's what it is. It's like understanding why am I doing this, right? Why am I, and not, and I'm not trying to like, but it's basically the word is like sabotage. Why am I sabotaging myself, right? Not trying to offend anybody with that, but like, why if I'm being told these things and I know these things and Dr. Derek's helping me with this plan, why do I keep having these issues? And and that's something that only you can address and understand and come to grips with. And it takes and maybe that's an advanced level of like getting into quiet time meditation, understanding who you are, those things that truly take, okay, now I'm getting my spiritual involvement in my health and taking the entire understanding of who I am in this world and in this nature and everything around me. But that all encompasses our overall health. And if we have that, then longevity becomes something that's almost a given. And it's not something we have to chase.
Yeah, totally. Without medication too.
Yeah.
Um, I think with the start of that question, the answer to people that may not be in that college or advanced graduate
Mhm.
school place of meditation and self-reflection, the very first thing though is I think we have this defensive nature of although I'm unhealthy, although I feel awful, although I can't move well, although rationally I know I'm not doing great, I at least am comfortable with what I'm currently doing.
Mm.
I'm comfortable not exercising. I'm comfortable eating these foods or drinking these beverages. I'm comfortable with this lifestyle. In what you're asking, rationally, I know. Rationally, I know it's in my best interest. Rationally, I know it's for my longevity. Rationally, I know it will even improve the quality of my life. But you're asking me to do something, Jerry, that I'm not currently doing, and I'm uncomfortable with that.
Right.
So we would rather be comfortably miserable
Mhm.
than uncomfortably healthy,
Yeah.
happy. So that's human nature. We
Mhm.
figured out how to be comfortable and we're scared to death oftentimes of changing it.
Yeah.
That would be scary.
Yeah.
However, once again, let's go back to what we talked about before. Take ownership of it and believe in yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you can get rid of some of these foods that you're eating all the time. It was never said that you must take in all of these bad foods. You must take in candy bars. You must take in
Right.
sugar. You must drink alcohols. You must eat all of these loaves of bread and all of these grains. It was never said that anywhere. You don't need it. You really
Yeah.
don't. You've just convinced yourself it's more comfortable.
Right.
So you will survive. You'll do great. You're going to feel great, but you must convince yourself that you're capable of doing it, and you will be able to do it.
Right. And once you start going down that path, one of the objections that a lot of people say is like, oh, it's so expensive to eat healthy, right? And I even saw something that said, somebody posted the other day, they were looking at two different jars of peanut butter at the store. And the peanut butter that was highly processed and it had like 18 ingredients and it was like for the same size, whatever they quoted, it was like $2.79. But then the organic one that was like nuts, that's all it said. It was the ingredient peanuts was like $7.50. And so like how am I supposed to be healthy if I'm trying to cut all this other stuff out, if it's so much more expensive to have this? But that's part of that being uncomfortable. Like, okay, I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to pay a little bit more right now to make sure that I'm getting the proper nutrients because in the long run, I'm going to pay a whole lot less in medications, medical bills, and all of those things that are going to happen. I might not see the results of that investment for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, depending on how old I am now when I start making that change. But with the way that cost of things go up, like who knows how big that investment is right now in our health by going, okay, I'm going to go ahead and spend money on things that I know are going to make me healthier internally.
Well, yeah, personally, I want to make every dollar count. I hate taking money and throwing it right out the window, right in the trash,
Right.
which is what you do when you eat poor foods. And you might
Mhm.
argue with me, think about all the money you'll save if you can die in your mid 50s. You'll save a lot of money if you could just die 40 years prematurely. Oh my goodness, you'll
Right.
save a lot of money.
Right.
Um, of course, that's not your goal. Look,
Yeah.
I don't know every person's life, but a lot of my clients come to me and they want to live longer and they want to live better. They want to
Mhm.
feel better because this is our only time around here.
Yeah.
This is our chance. This is our life, and I want to make the most of it. I want to feel good. I want to look good. I want to be proud of
Right.
myself. I want to be able to do things. I want to be able to recreate,
Yeah.
and I want to have a good life expectancy. I don't want to die 10, 20, 30, 40 years prematurely
Right.
so I can save $1.50 by buying ramen noodles.
Right.
That's not the goal. So if somebody starts using that as an argument, I think it's a terrible argument unless you
Mhm.
really don't value your life at all. And I
Yeah.
hope that's not the case.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And one of the things that I always remind people, and one of the reasons why I got into studying exercise physiology and going down this path was my grandmother died when I was in college, and I saw her in the hospital, and she was my biggest fan when it came to my athletic endeavors. And to know that like she never got to meet my wife, right? She never got to meet my kids. Um, and so it's just like I don't want anybody else to not get the experience with their grandkids, to not get the experiences of seeing their great grandkids, right? Like, because that's something that in today's world with the medical advances that we have, nobody should be not living to long enough to see all these things happen because the medical advances are there to keep you alive when the acute things happen, right? And the diseases that have killed off people in the past, like they're now advances to be able to keep us alive through those things. And so if you take off chronic diseases off the charts of, like especially the food driven ones and the obesity driven ones, like our life expectancy is huge
Yeah.
for people that are healthy. Life expectancy is huge. And those
Yeah.
people are seeing grandkids and great grandkids and even great great grandkids. And that's what we should all be like living for is having that because deep down we're all relational beings. And so being around people and having that community is what builds like basically our whole society.
Yeah, I think so. Of course, you want to be there to see kids, grandkids, great grandkids, and you want to feel good in the process of doing it
Mhm.
too, not just being alive on a ventilator and medication.
Right.
Um, and that's really the crux of the whole thing. The goal and my passion in Strength Genesis and strengthgenesis.com was providing those foods, those clean label foods, some of the world's finest foods to improve all of those things.
Right.
So in there, what I basically did is I looked over the entire world looking for the best possible ingredients. So in there, if you've gone to the website already, you
Mhm.
probably know I have like what I call the world's greatest cooking oil,
Right.
which is cold pressed Australian macadamia nut oil. It
Mhm.
even outperforms olive oil for cooking. Clean label, high omega-3 and omega-9.
Mhm.
It repairs your vessel wall. It helps all of your cells and it does decrease craving and it holds up to a very high temperature and it tastes like butter.
Mm.
So really delicious stuff that you should be taking in.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed it though, but we also have an extremely popular product right now called Origin Keto Salad Dressing. It's the only salad dressing currently available on the market that is 100% extra virgin olive oil.
Oh,
The
wow.
other, yeah, so if you go to the grocery store, because you're probably
Mhm.
thinking, no, there's other ones that have olive oil. Yes, but it's not 100%.
Right.
They mix in either canola or soybean oil.
Mhm.
And the difference in the way you'll know is this. If it must be refrigerated after opening, which is pretty much every salad dressing ever,
Yeah.
it has bad oil.
Yeah.
Ours, you do not have to refrigerate after opening. You can put it right in the cupboard, right on the countertop, because it is 100% extra virgin olive oil and it is a keto. There is no carb, no sugar in
Mhm.
there at all. There are spices and that is it.
Yeah.
So when you look at these clean labels, when you look at improving good fatty acids, omega-3s and omega-9s, heart health, brain health,
Yeah.
less food addiction and craving,
Mhm.
your cells will be better, your eyes will improve, your skin will improve, you'll drop body fat, all of these wonderful things. So Strength Genesis is all about that clean eating and the clean labels, and that's why we did what we did. And lastly, you may have noticed this too. I don't package anything in plastic,
Right.
right? So you go to a health food store, everything's in plastic. All those
Right.
protein tubs that are huge and obnoxious, that's all plastic.
Yeah.
All of the pills and vitamins and capsules, that's all plastic. Plastic is a petroleum byproduct.
Mhm.
It leaches into that food, into the pills, into the supplements that you're taking,
Right.
which is terrible for your risk of cancer. But it also increases your body fat because it increases your estrogen levels.
Yeah.
So at Strength Genesis, we put everything in sustainable packaging. So I put everything in either metal or glass or
Yeah.
paper to make sure there's no leaching of that in there.
Right.
It's better for your body and better for the planet.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that we started doing over the last probably year and a half is we just started saving our glass jars that things come in, right? We buy pickles or whatever. It's like save the glass jars and anything that we buy that we're like, okay, I can't avoid getting this in a bag. Um, well, and I get home, I cut the bag open, put it in a glass jar, store it in a glass jar in my house. So at least I'm stopping that process because that's so true about the plastics. And it's, but one other thing I wanted to just touch on, and I had in one of the previous episodes right before this one comes out, Corey Nelson from the oh my gosh, I just went blank on it. Um, Seed Oil Free Alliance, and we talked about a little bit about the omega threes and omega sixes, and um, but a big piece of our at least in the U.S. especially, a big piece of our when you look at fast food diets and what the standard American person is eating, the ratio of omega sixes to omega threes and omega nines is way out of whack,
Yeah,
right? And that's driving not just all the disease and everything, but it also drives the mental health issue,
yep,
right? Because it disrupts the brain chemistry. And
yeah.
so to go on the other side of it and go like, okay, well, yes, I need to cut those things down, but I also need to increase the omega threes and omega nines to balance that ratio out properly.
It should be
Um,
1 to 1. The ratio
yeah,
should be 1 to 1, omega 3s and 9s to omega 6s.
yeah.
And currently in the US, we're 1 to 16.
I was thinking it was 12 to 1, so like it's even worse than I was thinking it was.
It's
So, oh my
1 to
gosh.
16. Yeah, with
Yeah,
everything that we're eating out of a wrapper, a
yeah,
can, a bag, a box, that's where it is.
yeah,
You're not going to get it from Whole Foods. You're not going to get it from fish. You're not going to get it from meat. In
right,
fact, you're getting omega 3, 6s, and or omegas 3s and 9s from there.
right.
It's not from any natural food. It's only from manufactured food,
Yep,
things that are processed.
yep,
So stay away from processing or stay away from the omega 6s already.
right.
Now, with cooking oil, a little different. So many people cook in canola oil. So many people cook in grapeseed oil, cottonseed oil, vegetable oil, corn oil, soybean oil. Avoid those.
Yep.
Avoid those. I would tell you, use the Australian macadamia nut oil that we have
Mhm.
at strengthgenesis.com. There's other good oils as well, but that is loaded in omegas 3s and 9s.
Yeah,
The olive oil is fantastic too, just not good for cooking. That's why we put it in the
right.
salad dressing. I mentioned earlier MCT oil, which
Mhm.
is fantastic in the profile, and it decreases cravings and it improves cognitive function of your brain.
Right.
Those things are things that you should be increasing.
Yep. And you mentioned this slightly earlier, but I also want to make sure that people understand that they all of those things are also helping with the cell walls. And it's like in every cell in your body, it's helping because and that's huge for fighting off viruses, toxins, anything that gets you come in contact with. Because if your cell walls are strong, they will protect you. If they're weak, then they're vulnerable to anything happening. And it's almost like, hey, okay, I live in a house, it's great, but I leave the windows open all the time, so I'm surprised that there's bugs and dirt that get in the house.
Yeah,
You left the windows open all the time. Like
yeah,
shut the windows and you keep all those things out, and it's sort of the same thing. It's like, oh, I still have cell walls. They're just not very strong. Let's take care of those because we can fight things off. And then it's not so much a matter of like, I have to avoid all these germs or all these, like, no, I can come in contact with it and I know I'm going to be okay because my body's protected.
yeah. That's exactly it. There's so much we can do to help ourselves. It does come back to our food supply with that. Exercise plays a role in it, but it really is your nutrition of what you're doing. And that's been my mission at Strength Genesis is providing those types of foods for you. So I know
Right.
we mentioned the salad dressing, the MCT oil, the world's greatest cooking oil, which is the Australian macadamia nut oil, and so much more.
Yeah.
The protein powder that I have in there is from New Zealand and it's grass fed because it has the highest standards in the world of what grass fed is, which is
Yeah.
100% of the time. The fish oil that we have in there is cold processed and molecularly distilled. It's the
Mhm.
same as prescription fish oil. But you don't have to pay that huge prescription price
Right.
tag for, which is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
So all of those things are available at strengthgenesis.com.
Awesome. And I just looked at the clock and realized that we're running out of time here. So is there any way besides the website, like are you on social media where people could follow what's going on, YouTube, any of those things where it was like where can we point people to follow along and learn more about what's going on?
Yeah, all my social handles are there as well. So if you go to
Okay,
strengthgenesis.com, you'll see our Instagram page on there. You'll
awesome.
see our Facebook page on there and our YouTube pages that are on there as well. As we talked about before the camera went on, I love
Yep.
shooting videos. I love doing different things like that.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's all about trying to educate to help improve the quality of somebody's life. So that's essentially what it all is. So if you do want to drop body fat, if you want to live longer, live better, less risk of disease and medication, go to strengthgenesis.com.
Awesome. And so for that person that's heard all this and is like, okay, I think I'm ready to make a change in my life. I'm ready. I think this is right. The I think statements. How do they turn that from I think to I am going to do this? Is there a secret?
Yeah, they have to know. You have to stop thinking and start knowing.
Yeah.
right? I think I'm going to do well. I think I'm going to do well. I think I'm going to do well in this exam too. I know I'm going to do well on this exam. I know I am because I'm prepared. I'm doing all the right things. I know that I'm going to do well because I'm a good student. I'm taking it seriously. I've been to all my classes, reviewed all my notes, did all my projects, completed my homework. I know I'm going to do well.
Yeah. Awesome. And a lot of times that's all it is. Like even if you don't know the final answer, knowing that you're going to get to the final answer is what matters.
Exactly. And you will
So,
improve.
yep. So thank you so much, Dr. Derek, for being a guest. It's been a great conversation.
Jerry, thanks for having me on. Had a ton of fun today, and I do appreciate the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for checking out the Confidence Through Health podcast. Please subscribe, post a review, share this episode with those you love who need a little extra help with their health journey. Visit allinhealthandwellness.com to learn more about the coaching programs that I provide. All episodes are produced by the Social Media Cowboys, your source for all online marketing needs. Go to socialmediacowboys.com for more information.